TFA Fam. Hope everything is good for you and yours. Coming back at you with another TFA Throwdown. In today's Throwdown, me and Kev are going to be arguing back and forth on Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones. According to 444's ADP, they're going at RB10 and RB11 respectively, with Aaron Jones taking the edge, going at 206 and ADP to Josh Jacobs 207. I'm gonna jump off here. I'm taking the floor first. I'm taking what I want. I am the captain now. So for me, I'm going Josh Jacobs, and it's just for between these two. It's because I have far fewer questions with Jacobs and his volume and his touches over Aaron Jones. I really don't see outside the passing game potentially with Jalen Richard anyone really taking any volume from Jacobs. There's a more of a committee approach, it seems, with Green Bay. But for Jacobs, last year as a rookie, I think in 9 of his 13 games he played, he had 100 scrimmage yards, and 9 out of the 13. He had the 12th most rush attempts for a rookie in the past 10 years and had the 4th most rushing yards per game in that same time period. He was first in PFF's elusive rating among running backs with at least 100 carries. He was third in rushes of 15-plus yards. He was 10th in yards created per touch. The Raiders' offensive line last year as well was 6th in adjusted line yards per Football Outsiders, and they are returning all 5 of their starters. We know what they did in the draft with bringing in Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs, which should help alleviate some of those concerns with having a stacked box. And then if you look at all of the news and the drumbeat that has been coming out all offseason, you had Gruden come out and basically say that he was pissed off and annoyed that Josh Jacobs didn't get more votes for offensive rookie of the year, and basically just saying that he's gonna make those voters regret not putting Jacobs higher on that list, and he's just gonna give him even more touches, even more carries. The one thing that you can point to as a negative, or I guess it's kind of an unknown with Josh Jacobs' profile, is the fact that he only had 27 targets last year. And considering that was one of Jacobs' strengths coming into the NFL and how he was used as a receiver at Alabama, there's that one play that I can never get out of my mind where he's running down the middle of the field and he makes an adjustment that literally looks like he's a wide receiver making the adjustment and catching the ball over his shoulder and turning his head, finding the ball and made a catch. And I believe he scored a touchdown on that play as well. So it is a little troublesome that he did not get more targets, but Josh Jacobs has come out, and I mean, take this for what it's worth, but he said his goal this year is 60 catches. Like I said, Gruden has come out and said they want to get him far more involved in the passing game. With the added targets, there's going to be a cap to his ceiling, just to how many he can get, but I don't think 50. I think he could easily double the amount of targets he had last year. And as long as you're in that 30-ish to 35 catches for a running back, that's going to put you in an RB1 conversation easily that way. And if you look ahead to the strength of schedule kind of stuff from Sharp Football Stats, the Raiders do have the 7th easiest schedule when looking at opponents' rushing defense efficiency. So for me, I just think it's wheels up for Josh Jacobs, and I don't see him finishing outside of the top 7, top 8 in running back rankings for fantasy football purposes. So that is why I am on Josh Jacobs. Kev, give me your Aaron Jones take, sir.
Well, first of all, I got to start by saying that I definitely love Josh Jacobs for this year. This isn't a negative Josh Jacobs take. He's one of my dudes that if I can get in that second round, if guys like Miles Sanders and Joe Mixon and probably Kenyon Drake are off the board and Aaron Jones, then I would definitely be looking at Josh Jacobs, the next running back that I want to take, because I think he's being a little bit undervalued. And I actually did a video on this very subject about 3 weeks ago about how much I love Josh Jacobs. But let's get to Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is kind of like the Tyreek Hill of the running back position because he's been so efficient his entire career. Like, he's the most efficient running back in the league. He's not somebody that needs 20-plus touches a game to be able to kind of hit his ceiling. He can do it off much less volume. I mean, last year he was the number 2 overall running back last year, but He did it off of it. He played only 62% of the snaps, 62% of the opportunity share. He only had 236 carries, averaged about 15 per game. He averaged 4.3 targets per game, which was 11th, but he did have 44 red zone touches, which was also 11th. He finished with almost 1,100 rushing yards, almost 500 receiving yards, 49 receptions. The 19 touchdowns is kind of the thing that everyone's talked about. He averaged 19.7 fantasy points per game, which was 3rd. He averaged 5.5 yards per touch. Again, when we talk about how efficient he is, 86 evaded tackles. He had a 30.2% juke rate, which I believe was 3rd. 501 yards created, 1.76 yards created per touch, which was 12th. And then he had 12 goal line carries, which was 3rd. So I understand a lot of the stuff when people say, well, he's going to regress. He's not going to score 19 touchdowns this year. And I would agree. He doesn't have to score 19 touchdowns for him to still meet value. If you were to take away, let's say, like 8 touchdowns from him from last year, he still would have finished as RB7 in PPR formats. So I definitely think he's going to lose goal line work. He's not going to be the same goal line guy getting 12 goal line touches now that they've brought in A.J. Dillon in the 2nd round. I think they're going to use A.J. Dillon a little bit more on the ground, but I don't think that really affects Aaron Jones all that much. Like, he's still going to get work out of the passing game. He's still one of the better pass-catching running backs in all of football. And like I said, just how efficient he's been. So I have no problem with Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones, like, he kind of feels like most people are down on him, where heading into last year, everybody was super high on him. And now this year, he's just kind of there, and nobody's really touting him. Nobody's really excited about him. I do understand the fact that A.J. Dillon is there, and, you just kind of don't know how all this is going to play out. And then you have Matt LaFleur, who continues to hype him up so far through training camp and over the offseason about A.J. Dillon, which I understand. A.J. Dillon was Matt LaFleur's draft pick, right? Like, Matt LaFleur did not draft Aaron Jones, so I understand some of that. And let's be honest, the Packers had probably the worst draft classes you possibly could have had for a team with a 36, 37-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who has, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years left in him. We'll see. I know a lot of people think that he's kind of met hit the end, and he's not the same Aaron Rodgers anymore. But when all you have is fucking Devontae Adams, and that's literally all they surround you with, like, what do you expect this guy to do? So for me, when I see Aaron Jones, I know Aaron Jones is uber efficient, and I know he is somebody that does not need to sit here and get 300 touches this year. He doesn't need that. He's much more like Alvin Kamara, where he is uber efficient. He's, like I said, he's been one of the most efficient running backs in all of football. And not, to be honest, I mean, if you look, since 2017, he's the highest graded runner in the red zone since 2017. That's ahead of Alvin Kamara and Marlon Mack and Derrick Henry over that time span. So I think there's a lot to like about Aaron Jones. I think we have overstated his regression that's coming for him this year, and I think people act like he's just going to die. I still think he's going to be the lead back of this offense. I still think that he is going to see a lot of targets in his back. I think he can see more targets than what he saw last year. I think he has a range of where he could hit 70 to 80 targets and be the pass catching back, because let's face it, they don't have anybody else. They have Devontae Adams, and that's it. That's the list, because I know they have Alan Lazard and they have, a couple other guys, but like nobody that anybody's excited about. They have no tight end. I think there's still going to be a lot of touches there for Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is going to be utilized heavily as a pass catcher, and that for me is why I have a slight edge over Josh Jacobs. I do think Josh Jacobs is going to receive more volume as a pass catcher. I do believe that. That's one thing I talked about in my previous video. And I do think that Josh Jacobs does have top 5 upside in his range of outcomes. I do believe that. I think both of these guys are 2 guys that I really like, and 2 guys that I would really be thrilled with. Gun to my head, I can only have one of these guys. I would prefer Aaron Jones, because I know his pass catching volume is going to be there in a PPR format. Now, if we're talking standard, it's probably a different conversation. But while I think Josh Jacobs is probably going to out-touch him, and I don't think that's really a debate to be had, but I think that Aaron Jones is a higher pass-catching volume, and like I said, his efficiency is what drives him. Aaron Jones has been this efficient his entire career. Like, you could maybe make comparisons to Jamal Charles here, because that's what Jamal Charles was. Jamal Charles was ultra-efficient, never needed a ton of touches to be successful, and that's what Aaron Jones is. So, for me, like I said, that's kind of where I come down on him. I just have Aaron Jones just a little bit higher, and I feel a little bit more confident in him. And I think people are sleeping on Aaron Jones a little bit, like fantasy analysts in the space that are so afraid of touching him. And I just think that's a little ridiculous. Yes, he's gonna regress, but like I said, even if he regresses to 10 touchdowns, I think that's certainly in the range of his possibility, and that still, like I said, would have put him at RB7 last year. Even, if you go back and look at his 2018, he had 50% of the snaps. He only had 133 carries, 35 targets in 2018. He still had 9 touchdowns, but he only had 3 goal line carries. So again, I'm not really worried about this. That's why I think that people are just a little bit lower on him than they should.
It'll be certainly interesting to see how, because LaFleur has seemed like a coach who's been hell-bent on a committee approach. So it's going to be interesting to see how he divvies these touches up. And I think that is going to be the deciding factor on how high Aaron Jones finishes. Because it's the talent is absolutely there. He should be the lead back. He should be the guy who's in charge of everything. But like you said, those touchdowns were going to come down regardless. Like, there was no way he was going to be scoring 18, 19 touchdowns again. But now what happens if they put A.J. Dillon in as the goal line back? And last year, I think Jamal Williams had 45 targets of his own. So it's going to be super interesting to see how LaFleur uses all 3 of these running backs. Like I said, Josh Jacobs just gets the edge for me because I don't have any of those questions with him. Let us know in the comments who you are going to be drafting. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all that stuff for us. We really appreciate it. And we will be hitting you guys with more throwdowns and more of this goodness, more of this content fire coming soon. Talk to you guys.